victory.
What's up? It's Chris from Team Innovate, just chilling here with some of my teammates.
Yo, this is Adam.
Darren.
Awkward. Anyway, point being, just before we start this video, I'm just gonna ask you guys to, comment, thumbs up, subscribe. We need subscribers, and this one in particular, we could use a lot of comments on. So I'm here today, here to talk to you about the predictions, or at least our predictions for the ban list, and some of the cards we think are really likely to get banned, limited, semi-limited, or unlimited, period, and just stuff like that. So yeah. Definitely, you're probably wondering why Brionic's chilling up here and wondering which list is going to go under. And yeah, he's the start of our ban list. Personally, Brionic, in my opinion, is just a really, really powerful card. It's easy to top deck into. You have a Plague Spreader and one card in hand, you're top decking to that 4-star, you go for Brionic. You have that other card in hand, depending on what, like, just the pluses you can get with it are silly, but that's not really the bad problem. I mean, like, you only have a couple decks that can abuse it, like Blackwings just drawing into that Blizzard and just using the rest of their hand for dumps. The real issue is that normally Brionic's supposed to be a minus to bounce. I mean, you're supposed to have to break even. You drop cards to bounce cards. But with the power of things like Techgenus Hyper Librarian, sometimes by the time you end up sinking for Brionic, you have more than enough fodder just to destroy a field. And if you look back at the game in general, there's really no counter for bouncing. You can stop the card from activating, stop the card from being summoned, but there's no real out for stuff being bounced. And so that's why I'm thinking Brionic could see the ban list come September. The second card is Monster Reborn. This card has been back in the game for quite a little bit, but most decks that are powerful enough to be on the meta level have their own ways for recurring things from the graveyard, and Monster Reborn just either makes stupid plays, or it breaks game by having it being top decked or being able to take something really strong from their graveyard that you were barely able to destroy a couple turns ago. So, I mean, for obvious reasons, just like why Brain Control got banned, I think Monster War should get banned. It's too top deckable and it just breaks game too easy. Giant Trunade. I think Giant Trunade should be banned because, like I said before, there's not really an out for bouncing. And just the fact that Giant Trunade puts all the cards back to hand makes people not really afraid to set that much back row, because I mean, unless you black rose them, there's
They're fine.
or Hunlay, they're just gonna be able to reset everything next turn unless you can destroy them that one turn. Also, just like as I said, like with the bouncing of things, there's also not really many outs to it. So if you get bounced hardcore, there's nothing you can do unless you have that Solemn or that Ensure Beast on the field. You're not getting around that Giant Trunade.
Or you
So
go 6 Samurai, you have that Shien, but still.
yeah, so I mean, Giant Trunade I think should hit the ban list come September. Now for our limits, keep in mind that some of these picks aren't really big here, but they do the ban list according to the OCG meta. And Christia is a definite showstopper. The agents already have a very powerful deck. They've got Search, they've got Destruction, and they can sink for pretty big monsters. And Christia is a complete game breaker. When Christia gets dropped, not many decks can either A, top deck against Christia depending on the situation, or like if you're in a top decking battle and you drop Christia, it's like done.
Really, the only way to destroy Christia in most decks is Dark Hole.
I mean, some decks
Or
might
you
run
play Smashing Fissures, you know, those kind of destruction cards. But top decking against Christia, that's hard.
top decking against Christia is brutal. It's a 28 beater and you can't special summon, and the fact that it comes back, like the fact it gets stacked at the top of your, like, I mean, it's really dumb. And so I think Christia should be put at 1, or I think they're actually going to put Christia at 1. It's because just how popular it is there and just how like game breaking it is. Tribe Infecting Virus. This has been on the ban list for a long time, and this isn't one that I think they will put back into them, but this is one I kind of thinking would be nice to see in the meta. And I know lots of people are going to be, oh, it's broken. But if you really think about it, the only decks that it can really hit right now are like Sam's,
Black
Agents, Blackwings, the upcoming Dark World decks, and Sam's can just play Magatama. If it really becomes a problem, people can start playing My Body, and thanks to another pick on this list, people will probably start playing Starlight again. And Tribe Infecting Virus, it doesn't hit that many decks anymore, and it can be well avoided, especially through the use of Stardust. And so yeah, Tribe Infecting Virus I think could just be a nice little addition to the next format. Hyper Librarian. I think that should be limited. I know. I personally think that 1 is all you need, But 1 can make that one silly, stupid plus combo or just get Solemn Warning. At 2, there's an extra one in reserve to still go off nuts. Not to mention the fact there's those couple decks that just go off with 2 Upper Librarians and it's like dub TF. This is broken.
I have 9 cards in hand. Wow. I have 5 monsters on the field.
And then they drop reality. So the thing is really jacked up. So I think at 1, it'll be balanced because, I mean, it's a monster. It can be Solemn Warning. It can be Bottomless. But at the same time, people might be able to pull off that really nice combo with it. So I think at 1, it'll be a lot more balanced. Royal Tribute. I know it's already semi-limited, but I think it should be limited. With Japan getting Recruiter soon, they probably won't see it until later. But especially with Wonder Wand out, Gravekeepers might, depending on how they tech that card in, be getting a lot more draws. And with the fact that they can exceed very well while still being a really, really consistent deck, Royal Tribute, it's even more of an asset to an already, well, the deck was waning in popularity, but it can be solid. I mean, Royal Tribute first turn, most likely, I mean, ends up with their victory, because, I mean, they drop your monsters, unless you only have 1 monster in hand, they drop all your monsters, and then Necrovelli keeps it that way.
To me, like, Royal Tribute's like, kind of like Giant Trinity. You can't stop that card unless you Solemn it.
And it's just kind of like...
And if you do Solemn it, they're like, okay, summon.
I mean, if you Solemn it, you just paid 400 life points, you protect your hand, yes, but they didn't really minus. They still have everything they need.
Yeah.
They just minused 1 card.
They keep their monsters.
And so, yeah. The next card I think should go on to 1 is Pot of Avarice. Pot of Avarice, yeah, it looks really bad gold on Yu-Gi Wiki. Pot of Avarice, it's like, lots of people like it, but I think it's a card, because of how much is being used in Japan, could be a hit. And it would also help this meta, because like in Japan, they just have a bunch of Doppel Warriors, because they don't have Tengu and stuff like that. So I can see Pot of Avarice being hit just to kind of try to curb the meta and change it so they can gear it more towards Exceed, so they can sell more of their product. Over here, however, if Pot of Avarice was put down to 1,
Tengu, people will stop running Rakos and Card Troopers in their Tengu decks.
Yeah, it would completely change how the current plan decks are being played. For fear of milling off the 1 Pot of Avarice, mill would probably leave the format.
Thus making the deck slower, a bit slower.
A bit slower. It wouldn't mill, but it also wouldn't have the one-offs of Raiko popping cards, as well as the fact that when they do get that 1 Pot of Avarice, they might not just use it right on the spot, because they might want to wait for the right targets to be in the grave, or they just won't willy-nilly explode with Tengu and just put 3 Tengus back in other things because they know there's another pot in the deck. So I think Pot of Avarice at 1 will stop a lot of the shenanigans there that you will see in some of the decks. I mean, they'll still be able to...
I just thought about it. It's like, DD Crow does stop Pot of Avarice quite easily, though.
It does.
People do side it.
I mean, people do side it, but I mean, there's plenty of other things. I mean, just like any other card in the game, you'll have to try to bait out the DD Crow before you try to pot.
That's true. They might activate Limited Verse or Call the Haunted first.
I mean, there's just plenty of things, but Pot of Avarice, the fact that it's at 2 allows people to mill like crazy, knowing that whatever, even if I mill 1, I have another one. It allows them, if they have 2, or if they know they, like, you know, they're safely able to use 2, they'll just put stupid stuff back into the deck because they just want to get off the draws or reset Tengu. And the gayest thing is just having Tengu go off like 2 times and they get potted back into the deck and go off another 3. So, like, Pot of Avarice at 1, I think, would curb stomp a lot of shenanigans. Personally, I think Heavy Storm needs to come back. I think Heavy Storm, like, lots of people complain about the setting 4 or 5, setting 3 or more back rows, and then ending. And it's just like the first half of the game is trying to get over your opponent's back row, bait out the D-prisons or the warnings before you go off.
Solemns.
Anybody who was around 2 or so formats ago knows that with Heavy Storm in the game, you didn't set more than 2 unless you obviously had not the Heavy Storm. Unless you had Stardust, unless you had a Starlight Road. And that's the thing, going back to Trap Infecting Virus, if Heavy Storm came back, people will probably start manning Starlight again, because Starlight was an out to Heavy Storm, because Heavy Storm is just kind of detrimental to people's back.
It's a powerful card, but it can be negated easier than Giant Trunade.
I mean, there's many more cards to negate Heavy Storm than just Giant Trunade. Or than just Solemn, whereas Heavy, with Trunade, you can just Solemn or forbid if somebody runs like Magic Jammer. Or just like,
Magic
you know,
Jammer,
like
that's funny.
Magic Drain.
There you go.
I mean, just, Heavy Storm has a lot more outs to it, and it'll turn the game, I think, into a faster game where people just don't set their whole hand in a monster. And so I think that's a needed limit right now. Ultimate Offering, I'm putting that out. I think it needs to go to 1 because Gadgets plus Ultimate Offering plus Exceeds. You thin the deck like mad.
Silly
You
shenanigans.
exceed like I mean, I can foresee like just silly little gimmicky OTKs popping off that. But
gadget deck that exceeds 3 of each gadgets.
I mean, it's just kind of fun. I mean, right now there's not like devastating like just exceed right now, but still, just the fact that you can just go into like if you wanted to 3 hopes and a steel swarm, and then just like try to swing out for a game. But I mean, like it's just it can be pretty just dumb, and so I think that needs to be, for obvious reasons, put down. Now, moving on to our semi-limits. First, I would say that I think Agent of Mystery like doesn't have a good as chance as Christia, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Agent of Mystery Earth, because over there agents are running rampant and Hyperion is kind of a boss. But you don't really like Hyperion isn't like
Hyperion may be strong. Yes, he is strong. He is quite strong actually, but there's no reason to really hit him if you can't search him out. Like if he's still in your deck, you can't get him to hand. He's not that powerful.
Yeah, it seems like the only time Konami hits a boss monster is if the boss monster itself is broken.
Bad.
And when it comes to Hyperion, he's not broken himself. The deck around him makes him very, very efficient. And Konami just likes to kick a couple decks in the kneecaps instead of just shoot him in the face. So I mean,
yeah.
if you semi-limit Earth, that makes 1 less card that searches out Hyperion. If they even play Sanctuary in the Sky, but that also makes 1 less target for you to remove to special summon Hyperion, because lots of the decks don't even run Sanctuary in the Sky right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just makes 1 less target, and there's only like what?
So it's like they have like 7
targets. 6, 7 targets for Hyperion.
Yeah.
So there's only like that's 1 less.
Like what makes a deck strong is its search and its draw. Right now we're just sort of hitting the search. They still have their draw card.
But I mean, yeah, it's just kind of like this would hamper a little bit, but wouldn't make it unplayable. Dulorn, there's no real explanation for this. The card that was making it stupid was Symbols of Heritage. Symbols of Heritage needs 3 of the same monster in the graveyard. You semi-limit the monster that's being put in there at 3. It ends the combo. The card can still be played at 2.
Some weird OTKs of this.
So I mean, yeah. Sheehan Smoke Signal, we were thinking could get semi-limited, as well as 6 Samurai United. Most people are putting it down to 1, and I think that's a little bit too harsh on the deck. But like Sheehan Smoke Signal and 6 Samurai United at 2 each would make the deck less stacky, less just like I'm gonna wait until I have these open up and then just like devastate. It would make it more of how it kind of used to be, a consistent deck. Just putting these down to 2 each would probably force the 6 Sams to play maybe a couple more monsters, a couple more traps. It would make them more of a consistent with the potential to make big plays, instead of you either go big or you just kind of dwindle throughout the game until you win or lose.
It's like I said earlier, what makes a deck powerful is search and its draw. And, well, these are the 6 Samurai search and draw power.
But, yeah. And then...
It's like Gateway. So that's already at 1, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then the last one would be Unlimited Ojama Trio.
Why? I don't understand why they it's semi-limited, right?
No, yeah, semi-limited.
No, I don't understand why they semi-limited this.
Like, either way, Ojama Trio can just be kind of a funny card because you can't exceed with tokens. And so if any big exceed deck comes along, you can pop Ojama Trio as soon as they have 2 on the field, or as soon as they start, if they already have 2 on the field and you can see a combo. Because I mean, with the meta, you start to predict the meta as you learn how to play against it. And so, I mean, if you can read right, you pop a geometry and they're like, well, poop, I can't exceed how I want to. Or even if sinking, it's kind of funny, because if you know they need to set up 4 monsters on the field for this combo to work, and you pop a geometry when they have 2,
that changes their plan a little bit.
Changes their, like, they can't go for what they originally wanted. They can still sink.
What are 2 things could happen to you? You could either ruin their plan, or you can improve it because you just gave them 3 level 2 monsters to sync or summon with.
But yeah, so basically we just think this card's been just chilling around, and it can just go unlimited, and just nobody really bat an eye at it. But yeah, those are our thoughts on the current ban list, or not the current ban list, the next ban list predictions, and what we think should happen for September 1st. And yeah, I hope you liked it. Post your thoughts. I mean, we love to see players' thoughts, and remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and thumbs up and whatnot. But yeah, yeah, like I said before, we'd love to hear your feedback. And also look out for more things on our channel, like just some more deck profiles. I know I'll be gone for a week in another state, so I'm going to try to, when I come back, buy Generation Force. So, I mean, if you like box openings, you're going to be having one of those up. And probably have some deck videos up because we're trying to fine-tune removal fish. It may not be like super competitive right now, but at least just a viable deck to play around with at locals.
Deck.
Yeah, it's just it has funny moves. I've been fooling around with Ojamas, and I made something kind of silly that's kind of been pissing off people on Duel Network. So go Gaichi Gaichi. So yeah, pretty much like a beast smited by Gaichi Gaichi. It's
a silly deck, but it's actually working.
So yeah, we're gonna put a couple things up like that. So yeah, just stay tuned. And remember, we
comment, thumbs up, subscribe.
Like
don't
5
blame
times.
us too much.
We keep saying it because we need it. We're starving YouTubers. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Don't
Peace
blame
out.
us. Don't blame us too much. Bye bye.
Yeah, see ya.